Joe Ripley live in Atlanta with more on how two of our lawmakers voted just hours ago.
Good morning. First, Senator Kelly Loeffler, who had planned to object along with about a dozen other senators, but Kelly Loeffler had a change of heart, citing that violence at the Capitol yesterday, saying she could not do so, carry through in good conscience. This is a break from earlier this week when she pledged to fight for President Trump's bid to overturn the election result. Contingency of House members from here in Georgia tried to object to the Electoral College vote, led by Congressman Jody Hice from Greensboro. Hice claiming the Secretary of State changed the electoral process, setting the stage for massive fraud in the November 3rd election. Those claims are unfounded. Hice flanked by several Georgia GOP lawmakers in support of objecting to Biden's presidential victory. However, Loeffler, who lost Tuesday's Senate runoff race against Reverend Raphael Warnock, said the events at the U.S. Capitol forced her to change her mind. Without Loeffler signing off on this objection, Georgia's objection to the Electoral College vote ultimately failed.
Due to unilateral actions by the Secretary of State to unlawfully change the state's election process without approval from the General Assembly, and thereby setting the stage for an unprecedented amount of fraud and irregularities.
There is no excuse for the events that took place in these chambers today, and I pray that America never suffers such a dark day again.
Two other senators, one from Oklahoma, one from Montana, joined Loeffler in pulling their objections to the Electoral College vote.